Hi, how are you doing? Welcome, you filthy animals. It's me having some opinions on the internet. They're really not that grotesque, but honestly, I have toyed with the idea of putting out a video like this for quite a while now. I am very sensitive on the internet. You wouldn't believe it if I told you, but I am. I prolonged making this video for as long as possible, but I do want to have much more of a constructive conversation about bookish opinions. I think it's important to kind of voice your opinions about these things. Everybody is entitled to an opinion. I am gonna
savage and take down some institutions and things that you wouldn't believe.
Not really. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to talk about some things that I'm slightly passionate about. Being on the creator space for a little while now, I feel like I can talk kind of freely about some of these things, give you some insider information, and hopefully we can have a nice open conversation in the comments. If not, you are totally open to relentlessly drag me down there. Please don't. Or maybe I'll fight back. I'll bite back. I put out a little while ago a little text bubble asking for bookish opinions, and you all provided lots of things were kind of around the same area, the playing field of Booktok, consumerism, losing sense of personal taste, all of those same vein of sort of things. So I kind of put them all together, and I'm not going to be able to answer every single question that you posed. Maybe I'll make a part 2 of that, but right now I'm going to be talking about some of kind of the more glaringly obvious topics in that sphere, and we can just get right into them. So the most popular one is Booktok. We love it, we hate it, we can't stand it, we're ambivalent toward it. What are your opinions about Booktok? Okay, so I made a whole video talking about my presence on the internet, where I am, where I'm not, why I don't really use social media. You can watch that video, I'll link it. Side note, my hair was so flat in that. Why didn't anybody tell me? Gross. Anyway, I obviously know of TikTok. I have been and seen Booktok videos before. I don't actively participate in it, but I understand the gist of what people are talking about when they talk about Booktok. Is it a positive thing? Is it a negative thing? Where do we stand on that? For me personally, my opinion on it might be a little bit different than you think. I understand the qualms of Booktok, and for me, I'm trying to look and do this all in a very pragmatic way. I want to look at the positives of it first. I think if TikTok or Booktok is pushing the idea that reading is accessible and something that is cool or a fun hobby to have, that's great. I think everybody should have permission to read whatever the hell they want. Really, I'm not a snob. I used to be a purist. I used to think, oh, if you're not reading the classics, if you're not reading expensive literary fiction and having these strong takes on things, then your opinion was irrelevant and you weren't really needed in those spaces. And as I've matured, I realize why is my opinion stronger than anybody else's? Why is what I do greater than anybody else's? So I think truly my opinion is people should be able to read whatever the hell they want. I literally do not care. If you are reading, that's great. If you're encouraging it, amazing. Kudos to you. I think you're probably using your platform in a really positive way. So for that, I really don't care. I don't care at all. I know that Booktok is kind of notoriously known for being like this romance, YA, romantasy sort of world, and I think that's where people have a lot of gripes with it, where they see it as more of a negative thing. It's not really real reading. There's also other sides of Booktok that I think are dedicated to literary fiction, classics, and I don't think that those get as much volume of attention as the romance and YA book people do. I think that they're just as frequent on those wavelengths. I think just like the media is constantly picking up on more of these other genres. And I mean, obviously that's what's happening because those books are selling so much more at such a stronger rate than a lot of these literary fictions, things like that. But there's definitely those subgenres as well. So I think, again, those things are rippling through it, and I think people are being persuaded, and it's impressionable enough that people are picking up these books. So I think that that is a positive thing. Now, where I think it starts to get a little bit negative is the herd-like mentality of if you don't like something, then you're getting like ridiculed online. If you step out of the confines of what is popular there, what is reaching virality there. And that's just much more of a conversation about TikTok in general. I don't think that that's exclusive to Booktok, but I see a lot of people, I think they're a little bit apprehensive to maybe even step outside of what they're usually reading because it's not going to gain the traction. It's not going to get that internet traffic that's going to pay their bills. When something becomes their job, it's a lot more different than the pleasurable side of it. I do YouTube for my job, but I am an entertainer. Acting is the root of what drives me. So for me, I'm like, I don't mind getting on here and talking about things and performing because it's fun. It's innately who I am. But when your job becomes sticking in this one lane of traffic, I think that's where it starts to get a little bit murky. That's where it starts to get a little bit kind of like, not dangerous, but people talk a lot about loss of personal taste. And that is where I think it starts to be driven by a motive to reach a wider audience, reach more sponsorships, reach more publishers, reach a place that you can live comfortably and you can make a lot of money off of it. Money is basically what's driving all of this. We know this. This is not something profound that I'm saying. I think that's where it starts to get a little bit odd to me. I also think a lot of people talk about the aesthetic of reading. It becomes so much more about posing to read than actually reading. And yeah, I mean, I think that that's a huge part of the internet in general. I film myself. I'm able to edit things that I don't want to show. I'm able to present myself in a way that's glamorous and fabulous. And I am able to make sure that I'm highlighting things that I want to highlight. Do I think I'm like putting a filter on? Do I think I'm doing anything that's excessive? No, I really don't. I feel quite genuine when I'm making a video. The whole idea with TikTok, the qualms that people continue to have with it is that it's this vapid kind of anti-intellectual space, but I think that that's a lot of a projection of what we feel about ourselves, right? We hate ourselves when we spend so much time just scrolling on our phone. So why are we going to love what somebody else is presenting in a very artistic, aesthetic way? Do I think it's a little bit useless? Yeah, but have I done it? Have I filmed myself in like a cool way, made it look fun and romantic? Yeah, of course I have, definitely. Do I feel less of a person for doing that? No. Do I think that it's performative? Actually, no, not for me, not in my case. Do I think that there are instances of being performative? Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's much more of people taking like a very intellectual stance and a holier than thou kind of stance that makes me a little bit more irate than some of the people just like, I don't know, reading YA, for example. To me, that is a little bit more troublesome because what bothers me, and as I've matured on having a platform to talk about books, I think what has become very apparent for me is that I want to create a place where people can read what they want and feel secure in making a decision about what they read. Because if I was told when I first started reading that I wasn't able to be accepted someplace, or I wasn't going to be taken seriously as a reader because I wasn't reading XYZ immediately, that would totally diminish any momentum that I had to want to continue reading. For me, what I would like to preach and ultimately kind of pass on to people is that you can read whatever you want and it's valid, and hopefully you do move up and advance to reading things that are maybe a little bit more challenging for you. I think the performative aspect for me, and what alarms me, is when people act like, oh, I've always read these amazing, profound books and I understand them better than you'll ever understand them. And sometimes I think it's just really important to say, I didn't understand it. I did not understand it. I didn't get it. Or I didn't get it at this point in my life. I think that there's a lot of value in knowing that different stages of your life are going to bring about different perspectives that are key to understanding books. I feel that way all the time. I'm very adamant about rereads with books that you might have read when you were too young, or you might have read when you were just not in a headspace to comprehend it. I think it's important to do that. So that is like the performative aspect for me that feels a little bit off. And I think that there is a fine line between educating and trying to open up a conversation about books. I think Jared Henderson does a really great job of being an intellectual, being a philosopher, somebody who is able to convey this information, but in a very open and like free-flowing format that you don't feel ostracized for not having read some of the books that he's read. I think there's a lot of people that are doing it in a way that is open and constructive, but I think when it's very pigeonholed and like, no, let me educate you and tell you what you have to read, that is annoying to me, and I really don't like it at all. Hopefully I haven't gone too off on a tangent and I'm maintaining some sort of cohesive timeline here. But we're gonna now get into the consumerism aspect of it, and where I think it's gotten to a place that is just a little bit unachievable. Now, I'm giving you this information as a content creator online. I receive PR packages completely transparently. I have talked about them here on the channel. Usually that's kind of the deal, right? You talk about them and you get booked. I don't get books at a pace that is so frequent that I can't control the influx of boxes. Usually there's time periods that I receive a lot. In the beginning of this year, I received quite a bit of books. Usually in like the summer, I'll get book packages. But now I've kind of stifled it to a point where I feel like I can actually read the books. I do have relationships with publishers. I think that it's great to have that as somebody who is reading books. I have a great relationship with Hogarth. Mariner and Morrow actually sent me a package of books that were not necessarily new releases, but a backlog of books, which I thought was really thoughtful. And they know that I read a lot of older books. It's not necessarily current releases all the time for me. And I like when writers reach out independently and ask if I can read their book. I think that that is really warm and wonderful. That is something that exists in this space. And if you've ever sent me an email and I haven't gotten back to it, I apologize. I can't get to every single one, and I don't want to make empty promises. I also don't have a manager. I don't have an agent, so they're not fielding things for me to read, for me to take in these deals. I don't have that excess. I do think it gets a little bit excessive, definitely. I haven't like sat and watched somebody do a PR unboxing of like a huge amount of books. I've seen it more with product, which I think is wild. There is a part of me that gets a little bit like, oh, I want that free stuff. I definitely want that free stuff. I mean, I think that's just natural. I think you have to kind of put yourself in the shoes of the person who is receiving it. Yeah, of course you want free stuff. It's like having your birthday every single day, you get a package. But when does it just become about receiving the product and not so much about the reading? I think where I don't like it is when people just buy copious amounts of books and just do these massive haul videos. I understand it, it gets views, it's always gonna get views, but again, that ties back to chasing the virality of something as opposed to the concrete foundation of what you started to do, turning it into your job versus an actual genuine passion. Honestly, the best detriment to purchasing something is living in a New York City studio apartment. I can't do that. I literally cannot do that. It's a lot overwhelming for me. It ties into the question of what's better, buying off of Amazon, buying from these big retailers, or going to a library, going and swapping books with your friends, going to a thrift store. I think if you watch this channel, you know that I'm a huge advocate for getting books for cheap, getting thrifty versions, going to the library. I also will buy a new book if I want it. I'm not against that. I just think it's much more of like, isn't that overwhelming? Isn't that just a lot? To me, the weight of knowing that I've bought all these books and just having them sit there is a lot for me. That's just too much for me to consciously take on. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. I'm actively going through my bookshelf, and it feels so good to just read a book that's been sitting there for a while. And then I know once I finish this, it's going to be something that I've checked off of my list of things to do. I don't think anybody loves just the vapid consuming of things, going online and purchasing things. I don't have Amazon. I've never had Amazon. I just don't see a need for it for me. I live in New York City, so I can just go walk out and buy stuff. I do also have to put myself in the position of people who live in incredibly rural places. I used to grow up in an incredibly rural place. I know that the option of buying the exact book that I want was never there. I understand everybody has a whole scale of reasons for purchasing why they purchase. I just think like these massive, like, I bought 1,000 books and that's a lot. Like, for me, I just could never, that is so overwhelming. I'm getting gray hairs just thinking about it. Baby, what? I also know that a big topic, and I gently touched on this earlier, is the loss of personal taste and everybody reading the same books, right? Another criticism of Booktok is that it's constantly just pushing the same 20 books. It's constantly pushing the same 5 authors. It's just like this cesspool of just regurgitating the same thing. I mean, I am running around in the literary fiction circles, and I think that that's apparent there as well. I think it's apparent everywhere. Our worlds are so algorithmically driven. I know that when I get on my phone, I'm going to be seeing videos of dogs and viral ASMR videos. Everything is curated to what we naturally gravitate towards. So I think just depending on whatever circle you're running in, you're going to be seeing what's popular and it's pushing towards you. I do think that there has always been a degree of people kind of reading the same thing. Before TikTok, before Instagram, there was Oprah's Book Club. If you basically made it in Oprah's Book Club, you were a bestseller. And I've read some of those books, and those are good books. I don't hate my experiences with those. Yes, I think it's happening. I definitely think it's happening. Regardless of how much time you spend on the internet, you're going to see a lot of the same things over and over and over. Trends influence what is being sold, so it's going to naturally be there. Am I against reading those books? No. Yes, there is a general push of people reading the same things, people pushing the same things. That's all leveraged by what we already know, by virality, by money, by things like that. We already know that. It would be a little bit naive to say that that isn't happening, but that I think happens in every single industry. It happens in acting, it happens in singing, it happens in anything. When they feel that there can be a pushable star, it's going to happen. It's just unfortunately the natural way of things. When people latch onto something, it's continuing that trend. There's just a lot of like little side paths, side quests of narration to go into when looking at these things. And this, I'm like already thinking about how I'm presenting this, and I'm hoping I'm doing it in a way that makes sense. I'm also not going to be able to cover half of the topics that I want to talk about, but I guess we'll just have this be like the book talk video. And then I guess another one that I would like to talk about is like reading goals, numbers. Is it a positive or is it a negative thing to use things like Goodreads or to track your goal of reading? Personally for me, I use Goodreads. I'm not like super on it, but I use it as a way to track what I've read. I use it as a way to archive the books that I've read, to catalog things. I don't feel pressure to read at a competitive rate. I don't feel pressure to do that. I think it's great to have a goal. I'm a very goal-oriented person. My mind works that way. I'm a pretty type A personality. So I think just having that and reminding myself and seeing that I'm ahead of the goal or behind the goal motivates me in a way, but I don't feel so like, I gotta read like a 2-page book and just get my goal up there. When I first started creating, I did feel that, definitely. I did feel like I should be reading X, Y, Z number of books. I felt like in order to really have a popular stance online, I should be reading at least one popular genre of book, like a literary fiction book, breaking out and doing something like that. Now I do not care. I haven't reached my goal in the past 2 years, and this year I'm at a reading pace that's incredibly comfortable. You naturally fall in and out of reading. I think it's just nice to set a goal for yourself. It's like writing down a goal that you have. If your goal is like 200 books a year, if you can do it, great. Good for you. I'm just not... I'm not that girl. If it's a positive thing for you, keep using it. If it's a negative thing, don't use it. Don't do it. Don't feel competition. I think it all ties back into just being online and the convenience of being online, the lifestyle that we present online. I think we all know this, but everything is manufactured to a degree. So I think we all know these things, right? These aren't questions that I'm giving the most eye-opening answers to. But I want to just present this in a way that as somebody who does create online and somebody who does kind of flow into the circles of books, my opinion about these things and why it really shouldn't matter at all. I think that if you genuinely like a book, pick it up. If you don't, put it down. If you find people that give you great suggestions, go with that. If you find people that you disagree with, just unsubscribe or click away. I think that you don't understand how much control you have on the internet to just get off, sign out, and disengage with it, because independently you are so valuable as just a human away from the internet. And then we need to just learn how to navigate it, because it's here to stay. I am sure it's here to stay. Wow, I hope that wasn't too preachy, and I hope that gave you some insight into what I think without it being too boring. Anyway, I'm gonna hopefully get to more of the topics that were presented, because there was a lot of great topics, and I knew that this was gonna take a long time, and I knew that I was gonna get a little long-winded with it, but I wanted to just give a vague general idea of some of the criticisms and takeaways that I've noticed in the book communities. So, if you wanted part 2, you let me know. You guys are wonderful. You're fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next one.